Are you ready to put the roleplay in your tabletop game? Struggling to improv the dialogue with your NPCs? Need a few little tips to get roleplay all the way up to that top level? Well, stick around to the end of this video. I'm going to show you 5 tips in order to increase roleplay in your video. Let's get into it. Welcome back, Storyteller. My name's Khalil Roberson, an experienced Dungeon Master here to help you pursue your fantasy. Now, what I would like to talk about in this video is the 5 tips, or that's 10. 5 tips in order to help you increase role-playing in your game. Let's walk into the tips. All right, tip number 1, less is more. Now, what do I mean by this? So when you're role-playing out NPCs specifically, and you're trying to give them a sense of being alive, you should not be having in your mind a huge backlog of material and whatnot about that particular NPC. So what you should do is really write one sentence. That's it. And that one sentence in it should contain what that NPC wants. I kind of stole this idea from Matt Colville, which I'll link him right over there or down in the description below. Amazing guy. Anyways, so have that one sentence of what the NPC wants, and from there you can roleplay any situation. Why? Because you know what the NPC wants, and if their party is asking for something or saying something that either contradicts what they want or helps them get what they want, you know how they would then proceed forward. And just as a little pro tip, sometimes either include a flaw in what the creature wants or make another sentence that has its flaw in it, or even one word I should really say. That way you can make them a little more intriguing and a little more 3D and more complex as an NPC. All right, let's move on to tip number 2, which is create interesting encounters. Now, what I mean is you need to spend as much time in prepping out your roleplay encounters as you do your combat encounters. So an example of an interesting encounter was inside my political medium game, they had to get this particular scroll that had all the information for a house that they needed in order to, do a little more investigation on an assassination group called the Black Hand. There was an interesting roleplay encounter between one of the characters named Alan and the keeper of all the scrolls of houses called Abala, where she was like, yo, if you go to this place, get me a cup of water that I need because I'm really thirsty, and I'll give you the scroll. And he's like, I really don't want to do that because that's going to put me in bad sides with someone else. Here's what made it interesting. Abala took a gavel, smashed her hand, and now she was bleeding. And it was like, yeah, now I'm extorting you, and you're going to do, or not extorting you, blackmailing you, and now you're going to do this for me. That little thing went from having a small 5-minute roleplay encounter to spending the next 10 minutes just sitting there roleplaying the implications of that. And then after he left, he still had to deal with the implications of that. And when he came back, he still had to deal with the implications of that. So when you're trying to increase roleplay inside your games, spend more time on creating interesting and complicated roleplay encounters. All right, let's move on to tip number 3. Award experience points for roleplaying. So one thing that all players like is feeling like they're progressing or feeling like they're gaining something from an encounter that they're going into. And a lot of reasons why you're most likely not having a lot of roleplay in your in your games is because they feel like it's more or less a drag, and it's drag time really, and taking away from the times where they can be having combats and progressing the storyline and actually getting invested and getting more experience points in order to level up their characters. Quick fix, award experience points. And even a more pro tip on top of that is to give double experience points if a party member or the party themselves manages to turn a combat encounter into a roleplay encounter and can roleplay their way out of a combat encounter. Whether or not that means intimidating the creatures or convincing them that they're not a threat or allying with them or offering them something, whatever it is, offer them double experience points. And you'll see your players will definitely spend more time roleplaying their way out of combat than actually being murder hobos and going in and killing everything that they can see. All right, quest of the day. I do this a lot in the Discord, which I'll link down in the description below if you want to join that amazing community of storytellers. But what is your favorite way to award experience points? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll definitely reply to you what my favorite way is. But you can probably already guess already. It's giving experience points for roleplay. All right, let's move on to tip number 4. Tip number 4, don't make every NPC a jerk. Now, what do I mean by this? A lot of times what I see the tendency for a lot of dungeon masters to do is make every single shopkeep a penny pinching jerk and just really not helpful or not kind or not really trying to stick out their neck for the party. Now, if you want to increase roleplay from a shopping standpoint and having your party members engage with the shopkeeps, just like people on Critical Role engage with Pumat Soul and all the other different Matt Mercer NPCs, then you have to make your NPCs not a jerk. And you could do this in a variety of ways. One, just make them not penny pinchers. Make them, because a lot of times players, or not a lot of times, but some players like to negotiate. So if you purposely seed NPCs, shopkeepers that are willing to negotiate and, trade things, you get into a much more deeper roleplay experience. And that's a perfect moment for the party themselves to reach out and gain new quests that you have seeded in your world and get them on new storylines and build relationships much stronger, much more concrete. So do this and, try to use that in order to increase the roleplay inside of your game. All right, let's move into tip number 5, the most important tip of them all. Tip number 5, relax. Role-playing is basically acting, and what a lot of people do in acting that makes it not so genuine, not so just enjoyable, is they get really tense and they make things just really hard to socialize and whatnot. Just woosah, like they say in Bad Boys, and relax, all right? Role-playing is not as hard as you think it is. Just dive into it. Look at that one sentence that you wrote out for that NPC and use that to your advantage. Maybe prep out a voice for that NPC further on ahead, which is a little more of an advanced thing, but these are all different things that you can do, and just relax, because at the end of the day, your party are not actors either. Neither are you. So because of that, they're not expecting actor-like quality of role-playing. They're just expecting some level of role-playing that they can engage in, and that is not like fixed dialogue that you have in a game. And do you know what really goes good with role-play? Fluff. Fluff is an amazing combination that you can put with your role-playing encounters. And if you want to learn more about fluff and specifically crunch, or less about crunch, but if you want to learn about fluff and crunch, I have a video which I'll link over here or down there somewhere. It's gonna be here, where I talk a lot about fluff and crunch and how to integrate it into your game. I really appreciate and love you, Storyteller, for being a part of this community. It honestly means a lot to me. I remember when I first started this YouTube channel, I was excited when I got 3 views. Now to be sitting here getting like 30 views after a couple of days is just, it's mind-boggling, and I just want to thank you guys so much for that. And if you want to engage at a deeper level with this storytelling community, please feel free to subscribe to this channel, as I post new content every week, once a week. I'm not going to say a day because I'm really bad, most likely Saturday at 2:30. And also, if you really enjoy my content and want to really engage with the community more abroad, I will link down in the description my Discord, which is just full of amazing storytellers who share their stories, help build things, and just give general advice to each other, and they really help out with that. I also have a Twitter account, which I'll be posting more of my personal stories at my tables and whatnot, and you'll see a little more of behind the scenes on how I go about creating stuff and whatnot. And if you want, I also have a Facebook page which I'm starting to build up for this community in order to really have a different level of interaction, and I'm probably thinking about using that as a way to have like a look for group type dealio there. So definitely go over there and hop on my Facebook page and join the looking for players or looking for GM group icon, as that's a perfect and beautiful place for you to be. Nonetheless, I love you all. I thank you so much for being a part of this community. And in a world without fantasy, sometimes we need a little Dungeons and Dragons.